Welcome to Eyes on EB, Voices of EB, where conversation and community meet. We are here today with Neal Shah, who is running for a 3-year term on the East Brunswick Board of Education. And we would love for our community to get to know Neal a little bit better, his background, what brings him here and to this platform, and also on his journey through East Brunswick schools and what your why is. So what I like to, first of all, welcome and thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Rachel.
Of course.
I mean, this is an awesome opportunity for me to be able to explain to the community my why, like you had mentioned. Why do I want to give back to a community that has supported me for the last 21 years? Why do I want to give back to a community that has taught my children how to be good citizens? The question really is, why not? I mean, it has done so much for me. I did focus a lot on my family, ensuring that they had the best of everything that they could possibly get. Education, place to live, of all of that. But now it's my turn to give back. And I feel one of the greatest places to give back is through education, because my wife and I, we really, really value a good education.
We could see that, actually. I don't know if everybody can see it. We'll pan it later, but there's a chart right here that your daughter has been using to study, right?
Yeah. So she took her dental admission test over the summer. So while she was on summer break, she was creating this chart. So yeah.
Very nice. It's very organized. As an educator, I'm very impressed with it. Studying is an art form that not many children have grasped. So that actually gets us now into my first. I always like to offer our guests an opportunity to sort of tell everybody where you stand, what your campaign stands for, and just to sort of a brief overview to get us started.
So Jeff Winston and I created this 20-point platform. And in that 20-point platform, we detail what our platform and our points are. Basically, he's accountable. Okay. He's made accountable for what he needs to do, right? So, like, as a corporate employee for many, many years, every year I have to do a self-assessment. I have to tell my boss and my senior leaders where I'm supposed to be, what I did for the year. I have to toot my own horn, and I also have to apply a little bit of criticism. And that's what I think is really missing within East Brunswick.
Accountability.
At
the higher
level. And I know that a lot of people say that this Board of Education only has one employee, and that is the superintendent. There are 9 people that give him oversight, yet he does not have real accountability.
Okay. So I do want to say, first of all, that I think that 20-point, and the way I even mentioned this to Jeff Winston, that I think that it was very valuable, and I think as a community member, to break it down and see where you guys kind of stand on specific points was a very valuable tool. So thank you as a community member and as a voter. It's impressive.
I mean, the thing is, this was a labor of love. It didn't happen overnight. We sat down, Jeff came up with some of the ideas, I gave him my 2 cents, and we really did kind of like work it and say, what scenario do these, who does it benefit, right? What scenarios do these actually take place? It's not just 20 points that we randomly went to AI and asked it create something for us. This actually is the playbook for East Brunswick.
Right, like it's specifically tailored to East Brunswick.
Yeah.
With actionable solutions inside, I'm assuming, as well. So you've identified a problem, and then you've also brought, or you will be bringing, actionable solutions with you. Is that something?
Yes, exactly. And so one of the first things that we do want to mention is that if anybody wants a copy or a PDF of this book, we are more than happy to give it.
Okay.
And you can read it at your leisure, and it will give you the insight into our mindset on what we're going to do within that first year. We're going to set accountability goals for the superintendent, for different levels of administrators. We're going to set up think tanks. We're going to try to bring in people from the community and give us an explanation. And I was talking to my wife about this, and she said, are you going to gum up the works by asking everybody all the questions? No, we're not. We're not going to, as a leader, you do have to make the tough decisions, right? You do have to get there, and you have to show that there's a reason that you were elected or you were hired for this position. But that doesn't mean that you can't ask for help.
Okay,
Right.
so that brings me to my first question. What do you see as the proper role of Board of Education members as it relates to superintendent and then the principals and, trickling down? I know that everybody says the only employee that the Board of Education has is the superintendent. However, as we can see with the lack of accountability, that has a very, very toxic trickle down if the accountability is not there. So as board members, what do you think your role is in fixing that culture?
And that's a great question, because we are getting a new superintendent. Inevitably, February is going to come up very, very quickly. And so a new board, change the board, change the culture, changes results, but we're also changing the superintendent. So with this new board and this new superintendent, I'm hoping to forge a partnership. We're going to learn together. As of right now, we have a very small handful of people that have been on the board for a long period of time. Majority are pretty new. Not saying that their experience is lacking.
Right.
We have Anna Braun, who's a teacher for many, many years. We have Lou Figueroa, that's been an administrator for many, many years. Experience is there, but being on the board is limited. So now you have two partners that are coming in to work at creating an exceptional school district. And that is where I think this written book, would be a great playbook.
So based off of that book, now you have a board of 9 members who may not all have the same aligned vision and mission for the board. How will you make sure that every voice on the board is heard? Because as we know, there has been some talk, and it's been brought up that there has been sort of this consensus mentality where you have to sort of create a united front even if it's not something that you agree with. So how can you ensure that there will be independent decision making and that every person on the board will have the opportunity to be heard fairly?
Respectful listening, active listening, and creating a compromise between everybody. Those are really the 3 main things any leader should do. I have been working in corporate America. I have worked as an entrepreneur. I've been an auditor in my past life. And every single time we have a change, when it's a good leader coming in, and when it's an inexperienced leader coming in. A good leader comes in, assesses the situation, finds the areas where he's strong in and where he's able to bring his expertise. And then he also assesses where he's weak in, where he doesn't know. And then he taps on those experts. Respectful listening. You cannot have a rigid personality. You cannot have this is it, my way or the highway. You have to be able to go into any room, be able to work with anybody, and be able to respectfully listen. They got elected. They got hired. There's a reason for it. They're a voice of a certain group of people in this town. Right. And I respect that. I respect every single person in that way. You're an expert in some form, shape, or manner.
How can you, I know you are part of a slate, right? You and Mr. Winston are running on a slate. How can you sort of maintain your independence while also staying true to the slate mantra? We've seen in the past slates tend to really cause, some kind of animosity within the town, either during the elections or even afterwards, when people may then have different ideas afterwards. How can you ensure that you will stay to that?
Have you met Jeff?
I have.
Okay. So it's really easy to be independent, right? Jeff's voice is different than my voice. Great. He's great. He's very knowledgeable. He knows exactly what he wants, how he wants to get it done. I'm still learning. I know in your interview, he's told you that he's explaining to me the issues and things in town. I'm still absorbing a lot of that. I've lived here 21 years, a third of the time that Jeff's lived here, right? I didn't get a chance to experience how great these schools were, but I did get to experience it through my children's eyes. And so remaining independent, having my own experiences, and working through that, I think gives me my own voice also.
Okay. It's important for the community to know that as a slate, it doesn't always mean that you are completely...
We're not twins.
Right. You have your voice, and you will use it as you... That's very good to know. So thank you. I appreciate that.
We disagree even today. I mean, you know, we've had our meetings where, you know, he's brought up a point, I brought up a point. We disagree. But it doesn't mean that we don't figure out a common ground and have our compromises. Right. And I think that's the part where a lot of people don't get to see, is that how you work with others. You know, I think a lot of times when people get up to speak at the Board of Ed meetings, they're focused on what they want to say. Yes. They're angry, so. They're this, they're
emotional,
that.
Very emotional in there.
You know, it actually takes a lot of emotions just to get up to speak at the podium.
Yes, it does.
Right? Yeah. You know,
you're 100% right. It absolutely does.
So I think if you clear that, and you're able to sit down, and I think that's why the backroom sessions or the private sessions are very important, because you do have to be able to express your emotions. You have to be able to then take those emotions out and look across the 8 other people and say, who agrees with me? Who disagrees with me? Okay, just because you agree with me, do we agree on everything? Just because you disagree with me, do you disagree with me on everything? It takes time.
Okay.
And you have to be willing to put in that time. This is not, I know a lot of people have said this in the past to me, it's easy to run for government or easy to run for a board. It's really hard to govern. It's a whole new set of tasks. You know, it's a whole new skill set.
So what do you think, what unique characteristics do you believe you bring to the board that sets you apart from others, that when we're going to the voting booths, we should say, okay, Neal Shah, I remember this is what he said, and it's really important in his background, and this allows him this skill set?
You know, that's a great question too. Sorry, I know you've some full of great questions. What I bring to the table in today's climate is corporate structure. We have 9 people on the board right now, and it's kind of escaping me, but I don't think anybody works in corporate America. I think we have an attorney.
I believe Mary Antanius is in corporate.
She's in healthcare.
Pharmaceutical. Yes, but I think there's a corporate aspect to her position, I believe.
Yeah, so she might have, but she just came on board a couple of weeks ago.
That's true.
And so that corporate structure, that ability to bring in best practices from the corporate world. I'm not saying that we need to be as rigid. We need to have a flexibility. We need to be able to understand and pivot based on what the public wants. But currently, I believe we have a wild, wild west out there. You know, they do whatever they want to do. They change the rules however they want to change the rules. You know, and again, I'm not going to call anybody out or give you any specific details from the community, but we had somebody that ran last year but couldn't run this year, and his first statement was, well, you let me run last year, why can't I run again this year?
Right, it's inconsistent with the
rules. It's inconsistent.
Right.
I'm sorry, you know, listen, it's unfortunate that someone brought up these rules and they had to stick by it because they had no other choice, but for him to say that you let me do this last year, why can't you let me do it? So isn't that just like we're an education system. We're kind of taught to be following rules. We read books. We learn history. History should not repeat itself, you know.
But it depends who's making the rules.
Exactly.
And so that brings me to my next point. There are people who are under the superintendent that is there right now, who will still be there when there is this new superintendent coming in, no matter who the new superintendent is. How can you as a board member guarantee, or what will you do to help this new superintendent not become a Victor Valesky 2.0 if there are still people on the board who were complacent and complicit in creating this toxic environment.
You just answered your own question. They were complicit and complacent.
But they're still there, so they may still be there. How can you make sure that this superintendent...
But they're complicit and complacent. That's what I'm saying, is that when you're there for such a long time and you become complicit and you just want to be there because you're in the and you get to influence certain things, you don't tend to fight, or you don't tend to think out of the box. You don't tend to do a whole lot. They're complicit. They're complacent.
Right. So how can you, if they're still across from you in February, if they do get elected again, if some of them get elected again, and some of them are not running right now, so they will be there.
Right.
So how can you, as a new board member, I would imagine that even with seasoned board members, they try to squash whoever they may be and whoever it is they're trying to squash. If opinions differ, there's a shutdown mentality. So you, being a new board member, they would very easily say, "You're new. You don't know enough. You haven't been here long enough." How can you ensure that your voice is still heard, regardless of that backlash that you may experience?
I may be new. Right, and I may not know enough, but I do one thing better than I think a lot of people do, and that's research.
Okay.
You're not going to steamroll me.
Okay.
Not on policy, not on a lot of things. I may seem like the quiet, mild-mannered guy that lives in suburbia, New Jersey, but when it comes to rules, when it comes to procedure, when it comes to research, I'm a stickler.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know.
And there are ways that you can handle it. Again, respectful listening, right? Reigniting the passion on why you ran the first time. What was it that made you so emotional to get up off your sofa and put your name out? It's not easy.
It's not easy. And I do think that gets lost in the turmoil and the drama that is created behind, around elections. It's a volunteer position. You are giving up a lot of your time. So thank you even for running, regardless of the end result. I do want people to acknowledge the fact that it is not easy and it is a sacrifice of time, which is a luxury you can't, in my world. That's the thing you can't get back.
I mean, I have a full-time career. I know one of the board members said, what am I gaining from this? A sandwich?
Right.
Right? You're gaining the knowledge that you were able to shape a community and children that graduated and became good world citizens.
Okay.
Right? East Brunswick is known for
yes,
that.
It is. I know. For a long time. I have a lot of friends who graduated and are...
And New Jersey, globally, New Jersey, statewide, is always 1 or 2 in education. It's always fighting Massachusetts.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
And that is awesome because we are going to be a part of that. We are going to make sure that we stay in that 1 and 2.
Okay.
We're envied by so many from our educational standpoint.
So academics is wonderful, and East Brunswick is definitely a heavily, heavily academic-based district. But there are so many other ways that kids express themselves, and not every child is academic-based. So with these budget cuts, and every single year we find ourselves in the same thing, and arts and sports are always on the chopping block. As somebody who spends a lot of their time on the basketball court,
right?
What will you do as a board member to prioritize certain things that need to stay?
So I want to tell you a quick anecdote.
Sure.
We got 2 hands, right? Both hands serve a function. This is my daughter, this is my son. Highly academic, highly social, highly focused, uber focused. My son. Social, sports is his dream, but very competitive. So he also wants to do well in academia.
Okay.
So as a parents, Ruchi and I, we had to tailor our lifestyle around both. They're only 3 years apart. She's still in college and he's going to become a senior this year. So I know that there are people on the board currently that are super experts in sports and music. So it goes back to what I was saying. It goes back to respectful listening, learning from them, taking the best from them, understanding where they're coming from, and then tailoring a position that's best for the entire district, not just for a small group, but for the entire district. And it might take a little bit of time, but for someone that is motivated and wants to show their value, that's how much time you put into it. It's basically however much time you put in is what you're going to get out.
Okay. How can you maintain transparency? Because it seems as though every single time come February, March, all of a sudden, as much as the board says they're being transparent, this report comes out with a laundry list of things on the chopping block. And that is when, forgive me for my cynicism, but as an educator, that is when I feel as though they put everything that would stick against the wall, they'll throw everything there, and then they sort of peel back the things and almost look like the saviors.
Right.
When they reinstate, we will give this back to you, but it's only for a year, and that transparency is almost sort of not as transparent. It's like opaque.
It's a game.
So it's smoke and mirrors, quite frankly.
It's a game.
So how can you increase the transparency?
So, okay, again, going back to corporate America, we have budget meetings. And in those budget meetings, we know for sure what's getting cut, where the money is going to transfer to, what spend is going to happen for the next year. We know that for sure. We don't know how that's going to affect the market. We don't know how that's going to affect morale. We don't know how that's going to affect employment. So what we do is we put out little feelers, and that's exactly what the board does. They throw, like you said, everything up against the wall and see what sticks. What's going to cause the biggest commotion?
Right. Seems it's like an alarmist mentality, and it's awful. What it does to the community is horrible.
And the problem with that is, I believe they start tackling this way too late. When I know of a problem, I had a project that was $7 million that needed to be done in a year. I didn't wait till January for that project to happen. I started early. I started
because none of this is a surprise, right?
Not a surprise.
I mean, it's not, budget cuts are nothing new every year.
And you have to have a worst case scenario. You might get another 3% taken away, right? You might get 3% more this year. You never know. But you have to start bucketing where the most money, where the most effectiveness is. Now, again, we offer certain perks to certain individuals that work there, right? And if you add up all those perks that are unnecessary, right, that money then can be redistributed to stipends.
Perks, explain what you mean by that.
I mean, like, we pay for cell phones, we pay for mileage.
Oh, you're talking about for people up at central office.
Right.
There are extra, okay,
Right,
I see
right.
what you're saying.
And so again, you have to say, okay, taking a little bit away from here and here may not move the needle right away, but eventually it does. And you might say, okay, this amount of money can then be given to this person so that they can enrich the lives of our children. We have to start thinking outside the box, right? It's very, very important. And again, it goes back to what we've outlined in this platform. Thinking outside the box, giving pulse surveys so that we can grab what the teachers are valuing, right? Talking to other townships and districts. Did you know that South Brunswick is ranked number 1 and we're ranked number 4?
I have to stop you for 1 second and go back to surveys, because
Sure.
I've had to fill out surveys as an educator many times, and I have been nothing short of very honest and very forthcoming with the both negative and positive aspects of it. I've actually sat in meetings where administration has blamed, like they sort of sugarcoat the results when we all know that the results were not as positive as they are
Right.
are reporting they're sort of dictating the narrative, so to speak. How can you ensure that even that these surveys, the transparency is there for these surveys, that the good, the bad, and the ugly is all displayed from the surveys, not just cherry picking information?
Well, it's based on intention. If you're going to just do it just to do it, to show that, hey, I'm putting out a survey to improve morale and stuff like that.
I mean, wasn't there a survey put out about, like, after the whole that whole yearbook fiasco, and then it made it, it's not as big a problem as we thought it was. People aren't really saying it's as big as, yes, it is.
But
The
what
kids
was
were
the
getting
intention?
up.
The intention.
I don't really know what the intention of that was. I don't know. Just to say it was happening.
But the
I'm not sure.
intention for that was to appease
Right, exactly. Just
community,
to go through the motions.
right? It wasn't built in. You can't have a survey for a specific thing. I mean, you can, but it tends to seem like it's self-serving.
But
right?
it is it's data. It's collecting data on specific points. So
If it does, but it collects data based on the willingness of the taker to give you a proper feedback, right? Now, if you put out a survey for a specific item like the yearbook fiasco, do you want to be that whistleblower?
But if it's anonymous,
it's never anonymous. Unless, again, it's the intentions, right? And when I say pulse survey, we have to have a third party. It's a whole system.
okay, so
You
you're
gotta make
talking
sure-
legitimate things being overseen
Right, you
by a
can't,
third
like,
party.
Victor Valesky and Bernie and Board of Ed can't say, okay, we're going to just give out a survey, okay? Where's the gap stops? Where is the areas that you making sure that it's anonymous? How are you assuring the people taking it that they're not going to get in trouble for giving you, proper feedback, right? So you have a third party, right?
Okay, a neutral party.
A
that
neutral
gets
party
involved.
that aggregates all the information and gives it to you in buckets. 20% feel like this, 10% feel like this, 100% feel like this. And then you have to take that information and you have to act on it.
Well, climate and culture is toxic right now,
Right.
all across the board. And
Right.
I don't mean Board of Education, I mean all across the district. Kids have a really negative attitude about school.
Which is unfortunate.
It is a very unfortunate thing.
Wouldn't you give anything to go back to school? I would.
I mean, I've never left, so it's a different situation. I am back at school. I never left school.
Yeah.
I call myself a forever student, forever
Yeah.
in the classroom. But I know firsthand where, I can't speak for East Brunswick, but I know that I've been told many times by teachers, educators, not just teachers, educators in the district, whether there's, child study team members or whoever it may be, that it's not an easy place to be working these days. And
Why is that?
well, who's advocating for them?
Exactly.
And that's the problem. And who's advocating for the kids? So what steps are you going to take to ensure that our students, social, emotional, that we're teaching to the whole child,
Right,
basically,
of course.
and that the people who are tasked with the day-to-day, like I like to say, boots on the ground, are taken care of as well.
We're
Because
not creating robots.
it's not an easy place to work.
Yeah, we're not creating robots. We're creating well-rounded kids. And the way that well-rounded kids are created is when you have well-rounded teachers teaching our kids, right? We have to take care of our teachers. We have to support them. We have to figure out a way that it doesn't become a hierarchical, that only these people can talk to the teachers. You got to be able to let people do research. You have to be able to give them access to you.
But as a board member, if your only employee is the superintendent, what if you are faced with a situation where the superintendent and his, number 2 and number 3 don't necessarily feel as though coffee makers in the classroom are appropriate, and you say, well, really, let's fight battles that are a little bit more important than that.
Right.
How can you exercise your voice when you only, sort of...
And it goes back
stops
to
somewhere.
being that third party for these surveys. We skip level. So the superintendent is our employee, but he's also the top employee of everybody underneath him, right? So everybody reports up to him.
Right,
So,
and if he's the one that doesn't agree with it, then how do you fight that?
So when our SVP wants to really know what's going down or what's on boots on the ground, he skips management and goes straight to the line workers. He goes to these stores. He goes and he creates these surveys, and no one but him sees the initial reactions.
I don't know the legalities of that as far as Board of Education. I'm not sure.
Again,
I wouldn't speak to whether or not that's even
I can't
a possibility.
Either, but that's an idea.
It is
that's
an idea.
Thinking
and it's
outside of the box, right?
It's a very good idea.
Yeah,
it's a really good idea.
You have to create a safe enough environment for someone to give you a proper answer, right? If your child makes a mistake, gets a speeding ticket, and he hides it from you because he doesn't trust, right? That you're not going to get angry or you're not going to punish him, right? Same thing with our teachers. We haven't created that trust factor where
a safe space
they're going to tell us something negative and that we're not going to create that safe space for them. That safe space is very, very important. It's not only supposed to be a safe space for the kids, but it's supposed to be a safe space also for our teachers, administrators, and staff.
Completely agree with you. I'm going to move on now to diversity in our district. The last Board of Education meeting made it glaringly obvious a sort of tone deafness at the board level and really shock and awe. I mean, I can't call it anything other than shock and awe at test scores that are related to the diverse populations in our district. And when I say diverse, I don't just mean ethnically, I mean special education, and other subgroups, economically disadvantaged. That was a hot button, it hit a lot of nerves the last board meeting. So I say East Brunswick has a very elitist sort of way of delivering instruction and getting our students to perform in a certain way. And as an educator, what those test scores show me is that we are not meeting the needs of all students. We are not meeting them where they are and bringing them up. We are up here, and we are expecting them to get up here without giving them scaffolding, without giving them supports, accommodations, modifications, whatever you want to call them. So how can you, as a board member, help to bridge that gap where that tone deafness needs to go away?
It goes back to the research part, right? What she said, she took the easy way out. She lumped black and brown students together.
By she,
Dr. Bowley.
Okay.
Right? So now, that I feel to be a cop-out.
But it's not. But I have to. Those are because somebody else. I do have to stop for 1 second and clarify something because at the board meeting, board meeting, somebody else mentioned that. But those are not East Brunswick categories.
That's what I was going.
So those are categories that are set from either the state or the federal government. So East Brunswick doesn't have much leeway as far as where they categorize students.
That's exactly where I was taking that with. Right, she didn't go past what was given to her.
I see what you're saying. Right? She didn't dig deeper.
Yeah, I'm not calling her, any other thing, but she just took what was given to her, face value. Right. She didn't say, East Brunswick doesn't have that problem. I need to look at this a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm. I see.
She as an educator, as someone that's supposed to be passionate about curriculum. Again, it goes back to one of our points that we have accountability, right? Accountability not just for the superintendent, but everybody that reports up through him. I'm sorry, your presentation didn't meet the level that this community deserves. East Brunswick deserves better. Give us that information, or at least tell us that, hey, it's private, it's student related, we're going to be discussing it, and then we will give you a synopsis or a summary of what it is. Don't just give us the trash, so it's basically trash in, trash out. Don't give us that, because you're not doing your job to the fullest. You require everybody else to do their job to the fullest. You cannot get a pass on this.
I'm going to now touch on part of the diversity in our schools, which also has, according to test scores, led to this gap in
disparity.
Yes, whatever you want to call it, and the surprise of many of the board members and the town, quite frankly, to find out that all but 2 of our schools are Title I. How is that something that I don't even, there's so many layers to that onion. Number one, how did not more people know about that? Number 2, I'm familiar with Title I, and I know with Title I comes extra funds. So I'm going to ask you, as somebody running for the board, that was a big piece of the puzzle that was not given to whoever needed it. How can you ensure, you don't know what you don't know, right? So you might not have even known that was a question to ask.
Exactly.
So how can you reduce the shock and awe?
And this 0.7 of our plan, you have to have the proper people handling the proper line items, right? You have a grant writer. You have someone that's reaching out to these agencies that are giving us money to fund Title I. Title I doesn't come from the taxes that you and I pay that live in East Brunswick, nor does it come from the state. It's a separate entity, like EBEF. It's money that's given to us because we need it, right? And to kind of level the playing field.
Equity,
right? To make sure that every child that enters our school system is treated equally. They have the same resources as their neighbor does, right? So my first step would be to find out exactly how much money we've received in Title I, and then how are we earmarking that? Is it going into a general pool, which is not good? Is it going into a pet project? Again, not so good. So we need to find out more information. Again, it goes back to transparency, like you had mentioned before. Shock and awe.
Right, that was
We're
crazy.
Title I.
Yeah, right.
Okay, what are we doing about it?
Which also does, like you said, makes people wonder, if you didn't know we were Title I, where has this money been used up until this point, and how did they as a board not know that it was being dispersed?
When you're listed as 1, we're Title I.
It's a negative.
No, it's a negative.
But people think it's a negative.
Well, okay. So as a common man, if I hear Title I or Tier 1, I'm thinking we're Ivy League.
No, it's 2 different.
And that's the point of being transparent.
Right.
You have to sometimes explain to the people, because not everybody's going to ask you. They're going to be here in Title I. Oh, okay, yeah, Title I. We're great. We're awesome, right? And that's their mindset. They don't take the time. And again, it goes back to, why are you running for the Board of Ed? Are you there for a specific reason? Are you going to put in the work to explain to people the hurdles that we face? And explaining something like Title I to somebody is huge.
It is huge, and that was a really good point.
Yeah. So, I mean,
great point.
We have to take that upon ourselves. This is a privilege to be on the board. You have to act like it.
Transparency is not just presenting it, it's making sure people understand what they're looking at.
Right.
Great point.
And then
Great point.
And then taking that and giving it to the right people. We need to have the right grant writers. We need to say, hey, we need more busing. Funnel more money toward us at these schools.
Okay.
East Brunswick deserves better.
I'm going to move on to another hot button issue that has been really at the forefront in our district for a couple of years, and that's dyslexia, which also just brings me to special services in general and the inequity that I feel is there. And not just that I feel personally, that I'm seeing that others are feeling is there. That East Brunswick is sort of really great when you're an honor student and, if somebody needs more services. So that's where we come to that tier 1, tier 3, tier 2, right? The tier, the tier 1, those kids, they don't need much help. They are motivated. They want to learn,
right.
And they sort of can teach themselves.
Fast track. They
right?
fast tracking through.
And then you have, the students who really need extra help at that, lower level may have IEPs already.
I wouldn't say lower level. I would
say...
Well,
of the tier is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about of their hierarchy tier.
Again, going back to making sure we clearly explain to our audience.
Well, they showed that tier. It is, and that's not a new thing. That is an education tier.
Okay.
It just depends. Different districts use the top. East Brunswick tier 1 is the honors.
Your expertise on this one.
So, the tier 2 kids, the kids in the middle. Those are the kids that are struggling in our district. Really bad, actually. They are the ones that are floundering for help. They may not be, classifiable, but, with a little extra help, they could be honor students. And we sort of don't give them the support that they're needing. And that, I think, also speaks to that dyslexia issue where we have people in our district who are telling parents, well, we won't test them. We will just treat it as though this is happening. So we know your child has dyslexia, but we're not going to classify them as that, and we'll just give them the accommodations. How can you combat that? I mean, that's
it goes back to budgeting. Are we putting enough resources into those types of programs? Like you said, tier 1, top of the kids that are coming to school, learning, playing sports, going home to lovely, families, hot meals, shelter, and all of that. Great. But to define a great school district, you have to be able to treat every child the same. Mm-hmm. That give each and every single child that same opportunity to succeed. I have met, I'm coaching basketball, and it's a little bit different, but it's the same. We have those kids that can hit a 3-pointer from mid-court, and then we have those kids that couldn't hit a 3-pointer if they were by themselves, or even a layup. They couldn't make a layup if they were by themselves with nobody in the gym, right? And we have to support everyone. You know why? Because if everyone is playing well and everyone's supported, we normally win.
Right.
And East Brunswick wins when you take care of everybody.
Absolutely.
Not when you focus only on what's going to get you numbers. And so that's how I coach. That's my coaching style. And I don't like to use the word weak link, or I don't like to use those type of identifiers or classifiers. What I like to say is, okay, this is your strength. Let's work on that. This is your strength. Make sure that you take that into consideration. If you can't shoot, pass. If you can't shoot or pass, block. Be a part of the team.
Right. Curriculum and instruction, if we're talking about what is in our schools, in the classrooms, is a problem.
Yes.
I can't even sugarcoat it. I can't even put it in a nice way.
Exactly.
We are making curriculum decisions that are not including teachers. We are rolling out new curriculum without the proper training. Decisions are being made last minute and not told to people. How can you as a board member ensure that we have a more proactive rather than a reactive mentality when it comes to educating our students?
It goes back to one of our points in our book again. It's ensuring that every person that stems from the superintendent is accountable, that their job listing, that they're being reviewed, that they're being coached, that they're being supported with resources, with personnel. All of that has to be done. Dr. Bowley, when was the last time that she had continuing education? When was the last time that she went outside of the district to talk to other districts to see what they're doing and what's working for them? All of this needs to be put into a plan, and then it has to be something that they present on a regular basis. Hey, East Brunswick in Middlesex County, in our county, we're number 4. South Brunswick's number 1. South Brunswick, it costs less to send a child to school in South Brunswick than it does in East Brunswick. Why? What are they doing? That, again, goes back to our number 1 point. Create think tanks amongst the different districts within Middlesex County.
But as an educator, I want to say that the student body is different in South Brunswick than it is in East Brunswick. So it's almost like apples to oranges when you're comparing, because I think that goes back to our lack of seeing the students that are in front of us and teaching the students who are in front of us so that they can be successful, and which then brings me to the balance between academic rigor and social emotional well-being. Do you feel that East Brunswick has a good balance when it comes to academic rigor, but also supporting our students' social and emotional well-being?
No. And that's why we're in the position that we're in right now. There needs to be more attention placed on that. There needs to be less attention placed on the drama of how they're going to tell us that the budget's going to fail again. There needs to be more attention placed on what we're going to do to change that. This is not the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, or even 90s. This is a whole new world. There is a lot more that's being discovered. We're learning new things about how children grow, how they learn, how they interact, right? It needs to be a safe space for them. They need to be able to express themselves. They need to be able to tell us. These surveys that we have in here, maybe it's not just for the teachers. Thinking outside the box, maybe we have one at the beginning of the year for the kids. What do you want? What do you expect from this year? Besides learning academics and sports, what do you want to grow in? And maybe, we have anger management classes for adults, and we have diversity training for adults. Do we have that for our incoming freshmen? Do we have that for our incoming 10th graders? Do we have these types of special programs that probably doesn't cost a whole lot, but just needs a little bit of manpower to put together? Maybe it's a student-run thing. These are all questions that need to be addressed by the people that are on the board, because they are putting in the time and the effort to increase the value of an education from East Brunswick. Again, like I'd mentioned from the beginning, East Brunswick deserves better. And
so how can you, on that point, how do you as a board member plan to increase community engagement and tap into those resources that we probably have right in our town?
We do.
I mean, there are brilliant people that we live amongst. And the district is not utilizing them as much as they could.
I think we need to create groups. And they had a couple of groups that were created with giving them information on this new superintendent. I think that was a great process that they started. So why not do it for all this other stuff? Have them come and present, at the public portion, instead of only hearing the negative, only hearing people yelling and screaming or telling you what they don't like. Come and present some information. There was an article or a Facebook thread about the security of a lot of children at elementary schools. They're out for recess, but
I actually just saw that. That was one of I was actually just going to start talking about the shooting in Minnesota and how these teachers are now heading back to school in a week, and we all have this looming over our heads. Parents have this looming over their heads. There are a lot of unprotected spaces in East Brunswick where our children are running on a daily basis.
And so, okay, maybe you're so busy in work, or maybe you didn't see it. Someone brought it up. Now what? Now that the ceiling has been shattered, what are we doing about it?
Right, and that is, quite frankly, I mean, what is it? Putting up fences just to, that shouldn't be as difficult a fix as.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, when you're told about something and not dragging your feet, having action, putting a little fire behind your step, that separates you from a good district and a great district. And what we're not even a good district at this point. We're kind of teetering, but we want to be a great district, and we can be. It's simple. There's simple fixes. There's this platform. There are great people around town that are so passionate that they'll wake up at 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning and start just filling up these threads, right? Because they've been thinking about it all night long, you know? And, you know, I know that in the past, a lot of the board members say that we're not on social media. We tend not to engage with the community. That's a mistake. You should have somebody that's on social media and gathering this information and presenting it to the board. Hey, guys, this is what's happening. Before it boils up and somebody shows up at our public portion, we need to address this. We need to fix this. You know, and that is what the board does. Remember, it doesn't run the school district. It ensures that the district is running well. And how do you do that? Is by taking community engagement and putting that into action.
How can we, as a district, decrease this student, the anti-Semitism, the Islamophobia, the anti-LGBTQ plus? There is so much that we learned last year after the whole yearbook thing, this undercurrent of harassment and bullying that's happening at the schools that, quite frankly, almost again seemed to be a shock and awe to the board when this, and it took such a major, really polarizing thing that happened for all of these students to be strong enough and brave enough to come up to the podium and speak.
Yeah.
And as a community
How
member,
wonderful is that? You know?
But my problem with it is that I don't feel as though they were truly heard. I think in the moment they were, but from my kids' perspective, not much has changed in the hallways. So how can you as a board member ensure that it doesn't just stop at your level?
Goes back to the accountability of the superintendent and everybody that reports up to him, right? We have to place that in his checklist of things that he needs to do at the end of the year. How is student morale? How is teacher morale? Are we facing anything that could kind of upheal the district?
Right, because that was like a powder.
It was.
And then they didn't know what to do with it.
They didn't know what to do with it. Then you had a whole organization or a whole community that was very upset. And then it spilled over to another community because they felt that they were getting...
Right, you couldn't get out of that.
You couldn't get out of it. So now you have two communities that are very upset, and you have all these other communities that are friends with them.
Yeah.
And they're like, we don't know...
Right.
We don't know what side to kind of, But education, education, it teaches. You don't learn this type of behavior at school as much. You learn it from your environment, at home, family, whatever. They put that little seed in you, or they say something that they think is funny, and that grows in the child's head, and then they go in and they tell their friends and they laugh about it. But, I grew up in a small town, north of Cincinnati, Ohio. That's my plug for the day. But the demographics or the societal image was pretty flat. You had, a relatively small diversity or diverse group, right? And anybody that was diverse, they tend to kind of go with a more majority group
of their
and they kind of just wash themselves into that culture.
Interesting.
Middlesex County, East Brunswick, we live next to Edison, we live to South Brunswick. There's a lot of diversity.
A lot.
We have one of the largest Coptic churches of an Egyptian population in East Brunswick. We have a very large Indian population. We have a very large Jewish population. We have a very large Spanish population that's coming into town also. We need to celebrate each one of these cultures, and we need to show them, as different as they may seem, they're the same as us. They're trying to do the same thing as we are. And when I say we, I mean the individual students in school. And so I really think that the more programs, again, student related. When my daughter was in school, she was part of a group called Collision. And they had an international night where they had different dances and music and singing and things like that. And it was pretty international flavor to it. You have a Diwali, you have Eid, you have your Jewish holidays. That needs to be more celebrated. It goes back to it. Social media has to show the benefits of these things, like why we celebrate it. Give the information that that we're doing.
Knowledge is power, right?
Knowledge is power, exactly.
What guides your decision making? What values guide your decision making?
Oh, that's a good one. 20 years ago it was born. She guides me a lot, because my daughter and my son, now as he's gotten older, they give me a perspective that I didn't grow up in. Again, I grew up in a small town, very similar. Everybody was pretty much the same. Even if I look like I'm going to say something wrong, Anushka is there to give me that, nope, that's not how you should be thinking of it. And we've had, and you can ask my wife. You can ask my wife at this dinner table. We've had some spirited conversations, right? And I am not rigid in my. I mean, I may sound like it. I might be like that with them. Like, no, you have to do this. You have to do this, but I'm not. You have to be able to accept what is being thrown at you, your individual circumstances. What guides me, part intellect, part emotion, part what's happening, and how it's going to affect the general body.
Okay. Can you think of a time when you stood up for something you thought was really right, even though the voices in the room were completely against you?
I mean, I'm not going to give you specifics.
Yeah, you don't have to. But how did it affect you going forward?
It just happened, and it actually is part of this whole voucher system.
Okay.
And I was kind of. I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't fully educated upon it.
On vouchers.
I kind of had the surface level information.
Okay.
And there was a community member that educated me. And when I went to a event, and that came up, I spoke up. And I said, I don't think that's the right thing. I think you need to revisit this. And
what is your thought on vouchers?
Voucher systems, they're not good.
Okay.
As the model that's supposed to be coming through and what Florida has done. The spirit of a voucher system, I'm assuming probably whoever thought of it probably only thought of one way of doing it. But as of right now, it's
the way that the form that it is in right now.
Yeah, it needs a lot of work.
Yeah,
it needs a lot of work.
Okay.
It creates negativity. It creates a lot of, again, without getting into specifics over it, because I know it's a very hot button topic. It's something that needs a lot more research, right? And East Brunswick needs to be able to say, if we start to, again, if it becomes law, we have to figure out how we're going to accept that coming into our school, and we have to make the best of it. But as of right now, I would be totally against it. Okay.
What legacy, if you are elected to the board, what legacy would you like to leave?
That's it's like a father, right? What legacy do you want to leave for your children? And you always want to leave it better than you found it.
Okay. And what does that look like to you then on this board? If you had a utopia, if you almost had like a
working together, everybody working together toward having a great district, not the fighting, putting that aside, being able to say, I want to champion sports, I want to champion arts, I want to be the subject matter expert, and I'm going to bring those issues. I did the research, I went to the schools, I talked to the parents, I talked to the students, I talked to the teachers. And we have now provided a safe place for our kids to grow and express themselves. That's the legacy. That's the utopia. Is it going to happen in the next year? I'm going to damn well try.
Well, I wish you the best of luck
Thank you so much.
for attaining that utopia. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming.
welcome.
I really appreciate it.
Well, you heard it. Neal Shah, number 7.
Lucky
And
number 7.
Lucky number 7. We'll see you at the polls.
Great. Only thing we didn't do outside. Is that
That's fine. That's fine.
What do you think?
You guys have to
I
tell me.
thought it was great.
Okay.
I did, right?
No, I thought it was good.
I thought it was really
You
good.
know,
I thought
we'll
we
have
ended
different
really well.
perspectives. Just
I thought the last